I consider myself a colour first composer. I think in timbres. I describe my music to students and to people playing it to think in horizontal lines, not to think in vertical forms. Now, if we had more and more composers, and if women were given more opportunities, then you would start to build that trust around their voice. Now, here I am at 54, and I'm still battling with getting people to go through the experience of playing one of my pieces and finding that it is a journey. It's not an instant gratification. You've got to work. Because I love giving children the opportunity to make decisions because it's fun, yeah? Mm-hmm. When you get to be involved in the music making process yourself. I burned out as a music teacher and sort of changed my direction for a little while. But then what happened was...
Hi, my name is Andy and I like to welcome you to On Air, the Wind Music Podcast. If you are a native English speaker, you can skip the short introduction and go straight to the interview. I hope you enjoy it.
Wir sind On Air in 3, 2, 1.
Herzlich willkommen bei On Air, dem Blasmusik-Podcast. Mein Name ist Andi Schreck und ich treffe mich mit Dirigenten, Komponisten, Musikern und Visionären aus der Welt der Blasmusik. Wir sprechen über Ansichten, neue Ideen, das Leben und natürlich Musik. Herzlich willkommen zu On Air, dem Blasmusik-Podcast. Schön, dass ihr heute eingeschaltet habt zu einer ganz besonderen Folge. Wie ihr es in der Einleitung schon gemerkt habt, es ist eine englischsprachige Folge. Und das wollte ich schon ziemlich lange machen, habe mich aber ganz, ganz lange nicht getraut und habe mich dann Ende des Jahres dazu überwunden, es doch mal zu probieren. Und das Ergebnis hört ihr heute und mal sehen, ob ich das noch öfters mache, je nach eurer Reaktion. Ob ihr sagt, ja, ab und zu könnte auch mal was Englischsprachiges dabei sein. Oder ob ihr sagt, ja, lasst das lieber. Denn ich hätte richtig Lust. Und ihr werdet merken, ich war sehr, sehr nervös. Denn ich habe, glaube ich, seit 20 Jahren kein englisches Gespräch mehr geführt, das über 2 Sätze hinausging. Dementsprechend war ich sehr angespannt. Ich hoffe trotzdem, dass es euch gefällt, denn mein Gast ist Jodie Blackshaw. Sie ist australische Komponistin für Blasorchester und ich will euch gar nicht mehr langweilen. Ich wünsche euch jetzt viel Spaß mit Jodie Blackshaw hier im Blasmusik Podcast. My guest today is my first guest with whom I am speaking in English. She comes from Australia and is a composer and conductor. After completing her Bachelor of Music in Composition with Larry Sitsky at the Australian National University, she ventured back into the country to provide music opportunities for young students in remote communities. It's a great pleasure that she is here, and I would like to say a warm welcome to Jodie Blackshaw.
Hi, Andy. Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm very, very nervous. Jodie, my first question I ever ask is, what was the last piece of music you consciously listened to?
Oh, that's a really good question. I actually think it was a piece called Give Me Your Stars. It was written for Voces 8 by Lucy Walker. So they commissioned it as part of, I think it's their 20th anniversary this year. Mm-hmm. And I became infatuated with it really quickly. And I loved the harmonic language inside the piece and wanted to really investigate not only how she was able to create the phrase structures that she created, but also how she enabled to just write into the piece this incredible sensation of a lift, of an elevation. And it's something that really, really captured me. And, and I think prior to that, at the same time, I was going through a bit of a Voces 8 time.
Mm,
And I rediscovered the Foray Requiem.
okay.
And I love the instrumentation of the Foray Requiem, that it is mostly viola, cello. I think there's one oboe, but it's only for a short moment. There's one violin. There's no percussion. And again, this color and this use of the instruments in this way to be able to balance with the choir, but also to be able to create the sound and the emotion that he was trying to evoke with his requiem was something that, again, also really, really captured me.
Okay. Is it for you to only study, or will you conduct these pieces?
Oh, no, just study. No, I did conduct for a number of years when I was much younger than I am now. But I don't know, I sort of started to I moved out of music for a while. I actually started horticulture. I studied gardening for a while.
Okay.
I burned out as a music teacher, and went and sort of changed my direction for a little while. But then what happened was my husband, who's also a musician, he found out about a competition called the Frank de Kelly Composition Competition and encouraged me to apply. And at this point, I was working in a garden nursery. I was working with plants, and I decided that I would give this music thing one more chance. And I submitted 2 works to that contest. There were 2 different categories. One was for grade 1, wind band works, and one was for grade 3. And that was nearly 20 years ago. And my piece called Whirlwind was the winner of the grade 1 category, and my piece called Terpsichorean Dances came second in the other category for grade 3 works.
Okay.
So at that point, I kind of left the conducting behind, and which I'm actually very sad about. I'm very sad that I did that.
How long was that ago that you burned out and go another way?
That was in 2005. At the end of 2004, I had really, really, really felt the pinch of, the intensity of what I had been doing, and needed to do something else. Yeah.
Okay. I want to start from the beginning of your musical journey. How did music come to your life?
Oh, that's because of my father.
Okay.
So my father and my paternal grandmother, so his mother, she was a primary school teacher, and she conducted choirs, and she and my grandfather had a great love of music. My grandfather came from England, and Dad always had music on, and whether it was orchestral music, he was a great fan of Beethoven. He loved Schubert songs. I feel like I sort of, my young childhood was surrounded by Schubert songs. But also, I remember I had an old record, and it was of Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf. And as a child, I would pore over this record and play it again and again and again. And so that was very early in my life. My very first instrument, Andy, is not glamorous. It was a 2-tiered keyboard with pedals.
Okay.
On the drum beat, the boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, that kind of thing. But I had a wonderful teacher, and that instrument taught me harmony. It taught me how to read music. It taught me, and in fact, what I learned during my PhD, when you go back and investigate, why does my music sound this way? I really learned that I discovered my love of color and tone color, of Klangfarbe, from playing that instrument. because I would put headphones on, I would disappear into my own world, and I would be able to. I had all these little analog toggles on the organ, so you could add a little bit of saxophone, a little bit of oboe, a little bit of flute, that kind of thing. You could add vibrato, you could add tremolo, you could add reverb, and so I was constantly composing with Klangfarbe. I was constantly changing it and playing around with it. And that is very much a part of my compositional voice now.
Okay. We have a lot in common because at the age of 4, I play also the keyboard with a rhythm section in it. And I could do some overdub recordings. And this was the first I arranged by ear and have fun.
Yes, it's a great instrument for that. Certainly all of my first compositions and composing pieces all happened at that instrument. Yeah.
And I learned much about harmonies because of the left hand and playing only the harmonies.
Yes, absolutely. And then when I was in high school, I started studying with a local teacher. I grew up in a really small country town called Griffith in New South Wales. And the difference between Germany and Australia is that we only have a population of 25 million people. But our country is, I can't remember what it is. It's something like 8 or 10 times the size of Germany in terms of a landmass. So when you're a small country town, you need to travel 2 or 3 hours before you come to another country town. So whatever is available to you in that town is what you have. And we were so lucky that we had a world famous organist living in Griffith. And she would tour Europe. She recorded albums. She had a 3-tiered amazing keyboard in her garage. But she taught me about harmonic extensions. And when I go back, and she would just write out all my music for me. And she introduced me to Gershwin and Cole Porter, and we played a lot of that kind of music because it worked so well on the instrument. But there was a lot of extended harmonies, and I soon learned that what she actually did was she gave me lead sheets, jazz lead sheets, had a melody and these, extended chords, major 7s and +9 and +11 and +13 and minor 6th and all those kind of things. And I had to voice them and I had to make it all work. And I had to basically create the whole performance on the keyboard from this single lead sheet. So it was really, in hindsight, an extraordinary training. And it influences so much of the way I compose music. So
when did you decide to start music?
It was year 9 for me. I'm not quite sure how you talk about schooling years in Germany. Do you go 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12?
Yeah.
Yes. So it was year 9 for me. I went to a music camp, and something happened at that music camp, and there was just some very inspiring teachers. And one teacher in particular, her name was Julie Croft. And she had said to me, this is your strength. This is really your strength. You should really think about, you'd be a great music teacher. And I think it was, at that age, 14, 15, as teenagers, we like to be seen, we like to be noticed. And I was a bit of an odd bod. I didn't have too many friends at high school. I was, a bit of a different kind of thinker. But I found my people in musicians. Any other kids who are studying music, and I know musicians all over the world know this, you find this click, you find this connection with people that, and it's all because you love music too. And once I'd made that connection, there was no turning back. It was my focus from then on.
Okay. When did you compose your first real piece?
Probably would have been year 12.
Okay.
Yeah, in high school. It wasn't very good. And it wasn't very artistic or anything like that. It was a piece for band. We had to write a piece for the music subject we studied as part of our final school certificate. And so I called this piece I Had to Do It. That's what I called it. But it was a very poppy piece. I listened to a lot of jazz. I said that my father loved Schubert, but he also loved Glenn Miller. So, and I played in big bands as well at that time. So it sort of has this kind of influence. But I did learn how to write for a lot of different instruments. I wrote a piece for band, and for a kid in the country who didn't have much exposure to things. I was very lucky. So that was my first real piece.
How did you decide that this is your thing after this piece? To say, okay, I want to write more music.
Yeah, it really was. It was that. And in year 11, while I was answering your question, Andy, I remembered that I did also write this piece for 2 saxophones and piano in year 11. And it was written for a girlfriend whose parents had just announced that they were going to divorce. And we performed that a lot around town. And I think it won a competition. I really can't remember. But between that and the writing the piece for concert band, and in studying music, because when I studied music in year 11 and 12, I had to do everything by correspondence. Do you know this word, correspondence? So
No.
it means I had to do it by distance. So it means that there was no classes at my school. I didn't have a clarinet teacher in Griffith. So I would get these packages of music and information sent to me from Sydney, and then I would study them. I would have music on cassette tapes. Do you remember those?
Okay. That means you studied on your own.
Yeah, very much so. But I had a teacher guiding me, but she was a long way away. But the wonderful thing about her, and this contributes to why I wanted to study composition, was she found out very early in working with me that I loved 20th century music, and I didn't even know I loved it. So she really gave me the opportunity to study Messiaen, to study Boulez, to study Stravinsky. We studied all sorts of different composers that I had never heard of. And I was just so fascinated by it. And I really developed this love of it. And that led to me writing this piece for large ensemble, which then led to me applying to study composition at university.
Okay. You talked about earlier, and it's on your website. You write that you, I quote, you formed a very personal relationship with music early in life through the creative application of imagination to musical colors and movements. And are you a synesthete?
I think there is some synesthesia there. I don't automatically see a color when I hear the sound, but there is a very close association. For me, it is probably more with texture than it is with color in terms of where my synesthesia is. And for me, the link between texture and Klangfarbe and harmony, they're all very intertwined for me and my approach to composition.
How can I tell when I'm listening to or playing one of your pieces? How do you describe your music?
Oh, that's a really interesting question.
What is the special thing about your music?
I think it's because I consider myself a color first composer. I think in timbres. I describe my music to students and to people playing it to think in horizontal lines, not to think in vertical forms. To think that things are layered. Imagine a woven carpet or a woven fabric, And sometimes you get a really thick piece of thread come forward, and other times there'll just be these tightly woven patches, or a bright coloured object might come out or something like that. And so that's how you need to think about my music. It's just this constant woven tapestry. Percy Granger said that harmony was just this happy accidental collision of sounds. That's how he described harmony. And that's very much, whilst of course there is structure there, I try and leave the rules to one side a little bit and let it speak. I have a keyboard right here, just like I did when I was a child, and I would play around on a keyboard and improvise. I do that to get my material. So I don't sit down and, say, here's a chord progression, I'm going to now, write a melody to go with that. I don't take that approach at all. So in describing my music, I would say it's quite impressionistic. I would say it's there's often, particularly in works for children, there are creative and improvisation elements inside the music, because I love giving children the opportunity to make decisions, because it's fun, when you get to be involved in the music making process yourself. So
I have two questions. First is, it's interesting because we talked about that you played harmonies on your keyboards, jazz lead sheets, and now you say it's you forget the rules. And to think horizontal, how to switch off your mind, because when I write music, I always have chord progressions, and my hands automatically goes on the piano where the rules told it.
I think I can thank my very first composition teacher, Larry Sitsky, for that. When I went to study with Larry, Larry is half Russian and half Chinese, but and came to Australia, and he really brought very avant-garde contemporary music, art music to Australia. He really changed. We moved away from that English pastoral sound, and Larry injected something very new into Australian music. I talked with him not too long ago and asked him what his approach was to teaching composition. And he said, I just like to blow them up. That's what he said. And I thought, that's exactly what he did. He would force you to write something using just boxes, like repeating motives, and then be involved with the performers to see how you could create things. The very first composer he got me to study in my first year as a very young and inexperienced musician was Harry Partch. I don't know. You don't know Harry Partch? So Harry Partch is an American composer, but he spent a lot of time in Armenia. His parents were missionaries, and he was writing pretty standard Western music. And then he decided to burn it all, and he destroyed it all. And he created his own scale. If I remember correctly, it's 43. It's a microtonal scale, 43 tones in one octave instead of 12 semitones. So 43 microtones. And then went about building a lot of his own instruments to be able to play his music. And in my first year of university, Larry gave me some records of music by Harry Partch and said, I'm setting you a task. You can only listen to Harry Partch for the next week. You can't listen to any other music. You can only listen to Harry Partch. And I thought, okay, so I'm living on campus at university, and these really weird music's coming out of my room. And it was really hard at first. It would give you headaches, and it was really hard to process. God knows what was going on in my brain. But after a while, I started to hear melody. And after a while, I started to recognize different shapes and contours and structures inside the music. The most extraordinary thing was I put on one of my favorite, popular pieces after the week was done, thinking, I just need to listen to something else. And it sounded chunky. I don't know if you know this word, but it sounded, everything sounded big, and the step of one semitone felt enormous by comparison to what I'd been listening to. So this is a way that Larry would blow me up and really try and get me to think very differently about what music is, about what your voice can be, because he always says a composer is someone who can do anything. And you are. You're someone who can do absolutely anything. So I find if I get to a point where I create a progression, then I'm feeling really restricted by it. I'm feeling really locked in by it. And whilst, of course, there's definitely harmonic progression in my music, but I almost put that layer down, and then I go, okay, how can I step away from it? How can I push those boundaries? How can I take it somewhere else? And I think that's why I loved the Lucy Walker piece, Give Me Your Stars. Yeah. I felt like she did that. I felt like she bended and changed the rules and enabled things to go in different directions. And I really liked that.
Okay. What is your composition process like? Can you walk us through it a little bit? Do you have a picture, atmosphere, feeling, or do you improvise?
I do a lot of research first, Andy. So at the moment, I'm writing a piece about clouds. So I actually want to write an entire huge suite about clouds because there's so much information. Oh my gosh, to study clouds is the science of nephology. That's the science. And I cannot believe how enormous that whole area of science is. But so I've been reading everything I can about clouds, researching everything I can about clouds. I've joined the International Cloud Society. I'm learning from experts in the field. I'm taking time-lapse videos of clouds. I'm painting. I do all of these different things to get myself inside the subject matter of what my thinking is, if it becomes part of me, then my music can speak through it and it will make sense. Then my voice will be authentic. But I have to have done enough research first. So so I will do that. And then, yes, you're absolutely right. Maybe you do this as well, Andy. I go to the keyboard and I do some improvisation. And I try and get into a state of flow. So the chick sent me hi. He talks about getting into a state of flow. So, and this is another way you can switch off your brain to those rules. You just start improvising with something. I then might take that improvisation and improvise on that, and then take that improvisation and improvise on that until I get to a point where I lose time and place. And there are times where I almost don't remember what has happened, and I'm recording it and something comes forward and I go, there it is. There's the sound of this piece. So that is often how I start finding my material.
Okay. Do you play your piece your husband to get some feedback, or do you write it to the end and then this is the piece?
Oh no, I definitely ask my husband lots of questions. He's a great musician, and as a conductor himself, sometimes I'm stuck. Sometimes I've got this idea, I'm at a crossroads. Do I go this way? Do I go that way? And he can come in and definitively go, no, you definitely need to go in that direction. So that's really great. And definitely part of my process, Andy, is that I like to give the work to the conductor and the ensemble. And then I like to go and work with them And
Okay.
as they rehearse it and bring it to life, I will still make changes. There will still be changes that I work with, because I don't write to a formula for band, because I'm constantly trying to push what the ensemble can do and how it can sound. Then I take risks, and sometimes those risks, a lot of the time those risks work, but there are still some times when those risks don't work. And there just needs to be some changes to be made.
You write on your website, my music may even ask you to take a risk.
Yes.
What do you mean by that? And why is it important to be willing to take risks?
Well, risk equals growth.
Yeah.
When we take a risk, when we push ourselves to do something that's uncomfortable, then it becomes comfortable. And that's how we grow. That's how we learn. The human brain needs to fail in order to learn, in order to set that neural pathway and retain new information. We're better off if we fail at it first. So a great example, Andy, is a piece I just had premiered just 2 days ago called Where Silence Echoes. And it was commissioned by an adult community band in Minnesota in the United States to honor their retired band director. And this piece, they're used to playing medleys and marches and pop tunes and show tunes and that kind of music. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of music. But when that's all you play, when you're given something like my textural, wandering, meandering, sort of very vulnerable, transparent music, when you give that to them, it pokes holes in the ensemble. The ensemble can sound not very strong. You can find your weaknesses because people have to step up on the chair. They can't hide in their section. They have to play. So the comments from the band at the end of the process and the end of putting this piece together was, we need to play more music like this. We have learned, we have connected so much more as a community. We have, I wonder if I can find it quickly. The email I received from them was just so astonishing in terms of how much they grew as an ensemble. We are all better humans from this experience and have grown immensely as musicians and strengthened our bond as a community band. Our band has discovered a renewed commitment to music making excellence and a willingness to take musical risks and be more open-minded.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why you should take risks.
Okay. I'm a music teacher in high school, and we have wind instrument classes.
Yes.
And how can I support children in taking risks in music? What would you say?
I have a series called Teaching Performance Through Composition. And in that series, I provide music teachers like you with resources that give students the opportunity to make sure that they know what notes they need to play. There is usually a melody. There is sometimes accompanying lines of different kinds, and there is often rhythmic ostinatos. It depends on how much textural complexity you want to build into the composition. But in these pieces, what you can do is you can guide students by composing with structure. So you can say, okay, we're all going to play the melody, and now Hubert on trumpet, he's going to play the melody, and everybody else, you're going to play this section. And now we're going to have Sophie on flute, and she's going to do this, and la la la. So they get to compose with big music ideas in terms of structure, in terms of texture, in terms of Klangfarbe, and in terms of expressive techniques. So they decide on tempo, dynamics, articulation, phrasing even.
Yeah.
And all of these things, by making decisions with those parts of the music making process, then they're not only incredibly empowered by that process, but they are taking risks. They can have ideas and it might not work, but they will learn. The notes are good because I've provided those notes. The notes are good. What they do with them and how far they want to stretch them and what they want, where they want to take it and what they want to say with those notes is something that can be so enriching for you as the teacher and for them as the students. And then that feeds them in everything else that they do. So they're then playing a piece of music and they recognize, this is actually a melody and accompaniment, or this is something that I call a layer in. One part starts and then another part starts, then another part starts. We just use simple terms like layer in, and they'll go, oh, this is a layer in here in the music. So they develop orally, they develop their awareness of what they're playing, all through doing this composition process. And then eventually they get to a point where they have enough theoretical knowledge behind them and they start writing the melodies and they start writing the pitch material. But because they've been composing with those really big, important things like klangfarbe and texture and structure, because they've already got experience in composing with those, they're better composers when it comes down to them creating a melody. Otherwise, most of the time, we approach them and say, here, write a melody, and they have no idea what they're doing. Their melody sounds like every other melody that's ever been written, and they don't know what to do with it.
I ask myself, why didn't anyone think of that before? Why are you the first composer think about students to write their own music with your help?
I don't think I am the first, but I've also done a lot of study with Aufschulwerk, and a lot of people think that Aufschulwerk is for young children.
Yeah.
And they don't see that the method of the approach of Aufschulwerk can be very much applied to more senior students. The trouble is band has transposing instruments. And how do we get through that transposing instrument issue? Yeah. And that's what my series has really addressed. But it's also made it work better in that band environment. You can't just take Aufschulwerk that's for a classroom and throw it in a large ensemble and think it's going to work. It doesn't. So I sort of done that and then made some changes and made some adjustments. I talked about failing. Gosh, it took me 20 years to find the answer, Andy. And it wasn't until I studied neuroscience and really how the brain takes information and stores that information and then goes back and finds that information and brings it forward again. It wasn't till I started to use those ideas inside did I find an approach that is solid and an approach that works and it's very exciting. It's very exciting teaching. There are risks, and guess what? The teacher will fail as well, but the students love that. The students love it when you say, I haven't done this before. So let's give this a try. And then we're going to try it again and we'll try it again until we get better at it. So it's, I've had some of the most incredible moments as a musician and as a teacher with these resources.
Okay, I will give it a try. I try it with my students. We met in Germany.
Yes.
2 months ago. Your pieces are played worldwide and you get insights into the wind music scenes. What is the biggest difference between Australia, the USA and Germany?
One is the sound of the ensembles.
Okay.
The sound of the ensembles is so rich in Germany. I feel like I have tried to design a way to write for the wind band because I was constantly trying to soften the sound. I found the sound much too hard. I couldn't sit there and sit through an entire program of wind band music. I'd actually have to leave the concert. The sound was too hard. And then I realized what I needed to do was come to Europe. Because the bands had these beautiful, warm, rounded, gorgeous sounds. So that's one observation. I think I've learned that there is more alignment between Australia and Germany, for example, in terms of how we teach our students, what our music education programs look like, and what our ensemble, how we start with our teaching. But I think one of the things that I found very different was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understood was in Germany, students will learn an instrument with a teacher as a beginner, and they won't start playing in an ensemble until maybe they've been playing 1 or 2 years even. In America, they have this approach called a method book, and you might have a room of 90 beginners all in the room at one time on an instrument. They put a book and everyone plays something in unison. And
this is our method in my school.
Oh, it is your method. You use the method book in your school?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But I'm not only happy with that.
Yeah. There's pluses and minuses. There really is. Here in Australia, we have a bit of a combination. A lot of students will be having private lessons whilst they're also in the ensemble, or they might have private lessons, but only for one term before they play in ensemble. So, but I think in America with this approach, which is repetition, their method to teaching something is just to do it again and again and again and again. It's a method book approach. I hope I don't offend anyone by saying that, but that's definitely what it is. Because they meet in a lot of places, they meet every day. The band is every day. So that's a really different approach. But as a result, I actually think ensemble skills with a lot of American students tend to be a lot stronger. Here in Australia, I feel like we're perhaps stronger soloists and have good ensemble skills, but in the way we teach music, there has to be a lot of solo recitals as part of your study of music, both at high school and at university. So I feel like, and I've certainly had American band directors come to Australia and say, they notice a difference in our ensemble skills. I'm not sure about Germany because I think your ensemble skills are astonishing. But I haven't encountered many high school groups or that kind of age groups. I still haven't worked with those kinds of groups yet in Germany. I hope to make that happen.
Okay. You also created the Colorful Music website.
Yes.
What is the idea behind this?
Well, as we've talked about, my music sounds different and it asks people to take risks. But in some places in the world, if you take those risks as a band director, it might cost you your job because maybe your band doesn't sound the gold star rating that it was meant to sound because you took a risk with the repertoire. So I feel it has slowed the development of wind band repertoire, this need to win at competitions or get a platinum rating. So I created Colourful Music. At first, it started as something that was in response to asking conductors to listen to music by women. And that came from an experience with American composer John Mackey. John Mackey was here in Australia touring with a group, and he and I hung out for a few days, and he said, you're doing really quite well, all things considered. And I said, I don't understand. What do you mean by that comment? And he said, well, I know band directors who'll put the score down if they learn it's by a woman.
Oh.
So this was in 2016 that this happened. And it was the first time that I thought, wait, really? Is that why things feel so hard? I certainly hadn't thought that way. But the more and more I looked into it, the more and more I realized that the way we go looking for music, the routines we have around where do we find our music for the next year? Who do I talk to recommend titles to me? How do I find my music? If they're all with people who are just playing the more traditional standard, approach to everything, then it needs to take one person in that circle to say, hey, I heard this amazing piece by Nancy Galbraith. I think and I decided that I would take the risk and I would do it. And it was fantastic. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And then people start talking. So our industry is very much about conductors talking to other conductors about what they're playing. So this colourful music is about conductors sharing their concert programs where they have infused works by women, and then that developed into just works of differing compositional approach. I just wanted to talk about diversity in terms of works that treat wind bands differently, that offer different kinds of opportunities, that are trying to stretch the color of the ensemble, and to try and bring in a little bit more art music into what is happening. So that's where colourful music came from.
Okay. Why do you think there are still so few female composers, especially in Germany? When I look at the music publishers' repertoire, I only see one woman.
Yeah.
And when my conductor colleagues don't tell me about other women, I don't know them.
Yes, exactly.
And where do you see structural problems?
Where I see the structural problems, that if we're not doing composition in our classrooms, and then if band directors aren't playing music by women, then the girls in your bands don't even think that maybe it's something they could do.
Okay.
So being able to identify with the composer, and this isn't a long-term thing, it's a short-term thing. So for me, when I was in year 11, I discovered this amazing Australian composer, Sarah Hopkins. Sarah Hopkins has been a strong influence of mine. She's a choral composer. She's written a lot of music for children. She was widely celebrated throughout the 1980s and right to now, still is celebrated now. And I don't think I really appreciated how much of an influence Sarah Hopkins was on me, in that she gave me the idea that I could do that too. Just one woman composer gave me that idea that maybe I could do that too. Of course, I had a bent towards being a composer anyway, and I was more attracted to that than performance. And there is a bit of that. But I also learned, we just talked at length about my experiences on the keyboard. I was with a teacher. She encouraged me to compose. She encouraged me to explore and experiment and improvise. That's the kind of music education I had. So if we can kind of create these opportunities for our students and not only play more works by women, and it might just be that one composer. It doesn't have to be a saturation. You don't have to throw your library out and suddenly say, I'm going to play 50% of music by women. But have a look, because there's some absolutely fantastic music written by women that is not being played. And it's just, I don't think there's any malice. I honestly don't even think it's a sexism thing. I just think people just don't even know it's there. So I started a female band composer database for works from grades 1 to 4. And this was to really try and give people a home for this music and be able to see the score and hear the piece very quickly. That database has been going for a number of years now, and it has really helped to transform the industry. Even the Midwest Clinic in Chicago offer it as an option when looking for repertoire. So, I just think that once we sort of embrace that, we have more composition and creating and improvising in our ensembles, and you have a few more works by women in your program, then I think you'll start having more young women in your schools think that they can go and study composition. And then we start to see this churn. In Australia, I was really the only woman writing music for band for a long while. Now there's just such an explosion, if you like, of women. I can think of 8 to 10 off the top of my head who are here in Australia and who are writing for band. And that's extremely exciting for me. And I would like to think that maybe I was a little bit of part of that, because you speak to those composers and they go, yes, I remember playing your music when I was in school, so it's that Sarah Hopkins moment. It's that whole identity. It's that, hey, I can do that because Jodie Blackshaw's doing that. So it's just a matter of making a commitment to it and just being awakened to it.
Okay. I conduct the big yearly concert from my band outside the school in 2 weeks, and we have some Austrian composers, and we have one woman.
Yay!
She wrote a piece for us, and it's a world premiere.
Oh, wonderful!
But I know her because she was in my podcast.
Ah, yeah.
And we talked about women composers, and she said to me she didn't know other women composers in Austrian.
Right.
And I can't believe this.
Yeah. That is, I know when I have gone to look to add composers to my female band database from Europe, it is very difficult. It has been very difficult to find women who are writing in that grade 1 to 4 area for wind band, and just to locate them. I do apologize for my dog. Yes, but so it's just astonishing to think that she is on her own, and there's been some good work that has happened right throughout Australia and America in bringing together composers of color and women, like, a diversity movement, if you like.
Yeah.
And it's not too common these days that somebody posts their concert program on Facebook or one of those social media sites.
Yeah.
And you see that there is a work by a woman, and there's usually, and different sounding compositions. What I love is when I see something that's a real classic work from maybe 1960 or something, and then they've got something that's very current, or there's a premiere, and then they've got something that's a really well-written piece, and they found a work by a woman that's maybe got buried, and it's just because it's 15 years old doesn't mean it's been played a lot. We have this obsession with new music in the wind band. And I love the work that Miguel Echegoncelé is doing with Wasby in heroing his composition of the week, because it's really bringing forward a lot of compositions from, the history of wind band repertoire, and it's really consolidating a repertoire for wind band that's not just about what's brand new and released right now. So, and he certainly made enormous efforts to ensure that women are represented in that series as well.
Do you think it's a problem of lacking courage that we don't choose during compositions, or don't we know less about this?
I just think it's trust, Andy. Well, I've talked about this quite a bit, that there's a composer, and let's just pick Johann de May, just because it's somebody that if anybody listening to this podcast will know. If somebody says, oh, there's a new piece out by Johann de May, it would really work well for your band, that band director probably wouldn't hesitate. They'd probably go, okay, I'll go and buy it. They might not even listen to it, because they trust the voice of Johann de May. They trust the way he writes for band, and that's because his works have been played a lot. They're widely known, and people have come to trust his voice and what he does for the ensemble. Now, if we had more and more composers, and if women were given more opportunities, then you would start to build that trust around their voice. Now, here I am at 54, and I'm still battling with getting people to go through the experience of playing one of my pieces and finding that it is a journey. It's not an instant gratification. You've got to work. You've got to dig deep. You've got to do your score study as a conductor. I'm not interested in writing cookie cutter music. I want to write something that's real, but anything that is like that requires investment. And fortunately, I'm getting to a point where enough people have made the investment and people are talking and they trust what I do. But to a European audience, for example, virtually nobody will know who I am. And they certainly won't know my voice, and they won't know my works. So I feel like I have to start all over again to get that out there. So, but yeah, I really do feel like it's a matter of trusting voices, and we do that by talking about them, and we do that by listening, and just listening to more and more music and finding different pathways to find that music.
You said it's still a battle for you in this wind music world. Do you think that some women don't want to take up this fight?
Yeah. And not just women. Let's be honest. It's not just women. It's anybody with a voice that sounds different to the mainstream.
Different, yeah.
And so this is where my shift has kind of gone with my whole advocacy work, is to not just focus on, and I was never focused on what the person looked like, but really what they sound like. And that if there is a piece and you don't like it, listen again. And then you might find something in there that you do like, and then maybe listen again. And it's a bit like that. You've got to, when you're feeding new food to a young one, you've got to put it on their plate a few times before you and they know whether they like it or not. So I know when my daughter started eating solid food, a friend's mum said to me, always put the broccoli on the plate. Don't take it off because she thinks she doesn't like it. Just always put it on the plate, and one day she'll take a nibble at it. And I think we need to take the same approach to new music and music that's
Yeah, I told my daughter yesterday for 2 days a similar thing. She said, I can do this. And I told her, you can say you can't do this when you did it 10 times or 20 times, not the first one.
Yeah.
Do it several times, and when we both see you don't get further of this, then you can say you can't do it.
Yes. I hear what you're saying. That's wonderful. Yes. It's the same idea, but yeah. Don't say, because the first time might have been a fluke, right? Yeah.
Was this fight a reason for your burnout, or is this another?
Oh no,
thing?
That was just being in a horrendous school with a terrible bully.
Okay.
I had a head of music who was a real bully, and I was teaching every class from kindergarten through to year 9. I taught every class. And then I was running all sorts of ensembles, and it was 60, 70 hours a week. It was just, it was insane. It was just an insane job. And the whole time I was just made to feel like I was never good enough or by the staff, but the students loved me. I had great success with my students, but yeah, and I don't know, I think around the same time my first marriage had fallen apart and everything just exploded, and I thought, I'm done. So I love gardening. I still love gardening. And I had a very joyful couple of years in horticulture, but then I had my daughter, and then I won the Frank de Kelly composition contest, and I don't know, I felt like it was a sign from the universe that I had to keep going. So
what does the future hold for you?
Well, I've got a few projects that I'm trying to get off the ground at the moment. I guess the exciting thing for me is that I'm currently in negotiations with Stretta Music to have all my music distributed in Germany and throughout Europe with them.
Yeah.
So, and I've had wonderful discussions with them, and that's almost a done deal. So, watch this space. There'll be something happening at the start of 2026. So that's very exciting. And I think the future for me is to make a few more trips to Europe to really get to know some more people in Europe, because I really do feel that there is more alignment with not only my teaching approach, but with the way my music is written for the ensemble as it is. So I've been very lucky through WASB to meet some wonderful conductors, but also I'm now the new chair of the new composer network, and there are some exciting things that are going to happen in that space in the next couple of years, and I'm just really looking forward to taking my work in this space to being able to connect more conductors from around the world to composers from different parts of the world and start to stitch together what is happening with wind bands around the places through the eyes of composers. So that's something for me. But we moved house at the start of this year. My daughter finished high school, and I felt like there was this parenting burden that was taken off my shoulders. And a lot of the music that I've written this year is quite different. It's really free flowing. Maybe I don't have as many interruptions in my life, Andy. But I'm just excited. I'm really keen to write some bigger works. I'm really keen to be able to get my teeth into something and really let it grow and explore. I've written a lot of 5, 6, 7-minute pieces in the last 6 or 7 years, and that's been wonderful, and I'm grateful for every opportunity. But right now, there's a need in me. I've started to write this clouds piece, and that's just for one piece. But I know that it needs to be a much bigger series of works, almost like a planets, if you like, but all about clouds, because they tell us so much, and there's so much joy to find in what's just above all of us. It's such a unifier. So we'll see what happens. The other great thing is I live in this country town called Orange in the state of New South Wales here in Australia, and a lot of professional musicians have retired here, and there's a lot going on musically, and it's a chance to be involved locally with my music. And a lot of my stuff has been happening in America, and it's been a long way away from me. So I'm also looking for opportunities to maybe write chamber work, solo pieces, things like that for local musicians, and be more connected in my own town.
Yeah, very exciting. So you have many plans.
Yeah,
to do.
Always.
Okay. Some last questions. What would you like to do but haven't dared to do yet?
I'd love to write a concerto. I haven't had the opportunity.
For which instrument?
I'd love to write a tuba concerto. Andy?
It's super concerto.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wrote my first brass band work, and that would be my other comment, to write more brass band music. I've only written one work for brass band, and I loved it. Oh my gosh, I just loved it so much. And I'd always had an affection for the tuba, but I think I really fell in love with tuba when I wrote that piece. So I would love to write a tuba concerto.
Okay. Do you have a player in mind, or
Not a specific player, but I would like it to be something where it's very accessible. I'd really like to challenge some of the ideas around what people think a tuba concerto might sound like or where it might be, and be able to have the accompaniment sort of in that grade 4 kind of level, so that we can continue to promote tuba playing in our ensembles. And so we could have soloists come and work with high school groups, for example, and have that connection, or with really strong community groups as well. So I sort of really want to make sure that it's an accessible, playable piece.
okay? If you had the chance to read the last page of your book of life, would you do it?
Would I do it? No, because it might change.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Or it might say, oh, I don't know, because if it says, you're going to die in 2 years' time, then I might do things differently between now and then. So, I don't know. That's a hard question. I was always fascinated by that movie, Logan's Run. Do you know that sci-fi film, Logan's Run? And they all knew they were going to die when they were 30. They all knew that
I don't know that movie.
That was their time. And I thought, imagine how you would live your life if you knew that you had a limited time. So maybe I would have a look, Andy. So I just knew how much time I had. That's what I'd want to know.
Which film or book should everyone have read or seen?
The book that I think everyone should read is called The Runaway Species, and it's by Anthony Brand and David Eagleman. And the subtitle is How Human Creativity Remakes the World. And this book it's written in a really accessible way about how our brain works and how our brain takes information and processes that information and uses that information. It was a game changer for me. This book was a complete and total game changer. And I go back and reread it every couple of years, because there's just, as a teacher, as a thinker, as a human, this is vital information that I think everybody needs to know.
Okay. I have one quote in my mind for the whole interview we're doing, and it's from Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
And he said, "Your music can never be more or less than you are as a human being."
Yes.
This resonates the whole interview. We talk. You do researches. You read about how the brain works. You think about how can students grow, and I must think about that the whole time. Yeah.
Thank you, Andy. That's a great compliment. But you're absolutely right. And when I'm researching a piece, if I find that the music won't come forward, then I know I haven't done enough research. So that quote of Quincy Jones is so resonant, because it's only who you are. It's only how much you have.
Yeah.
It's only how much you know. It's only whatever experiences you've had. And I think for me, my recent trip to Europe was so life-changing and so eye-opening. It really made me very excited about what is possible, because once again I got exposed to something that was once again another level of difference in this wonderful world that we live in, called the wind band.
I have 2 questions. Which recording should everyone have heard?
Peace Dancer. It's a work called Peace Dancer by Brad Ginevro, University of Texas. It's freely available on YouTube. It's only 5 minutes of your life.
Okay.
Lie down and close your eyes and let it wash over.
Okay. And what are your wishes for the wind band scene and your private wishes for you?
My wish for the wind band scene is that we embrace an avant-garde scene, that we decide that it's okay to step beyond being the popular group. And I know that there are many people around the world that are doing this, but they probably still are very much a minority, especially when it comes to what we play in schools. I really want us in schools to give children more of an opportunity to be involved in the music making itself, rather than constantly feeding them the same sounding music that is written in the same way. Too many people are worried about whether the students will like it, rather than putting on their teacher hat and saying, it's up to me to guide you and to give you new experiences, because I am the adult in this relationship. So that is something that I really wish for the wind band. For me personally, I just hope I get to keep writing music for as long as I can. I hope other opportunities come forward, and I would love to have more opportunities, obviously, with European groups, because I think I'm probably more aligned with that European sound than any other sound that exists.
Jodie, thank you for your time, for talking to me, and I hope it was okay with my English.
You've done it very well. So here in Australia, we're so isolated, and we all speak English. So we're not so close quarters as you are there in Europe, with, this wonderful opportunity to learn and hear and speak other languages. I wish we had that here, but we don't. So you've done extremely well.
Das war meine allererste Folge auf Englisch mit Jodie Blackshaw, und jetzt seid ihr gefragt, mir Feedback zu geben, wie ihr diese Folge fandet, ob ihr was mitnehmen konntet, ob ihr sagt, das ist total cool, auch mal englische Künstlerinnen, Komponisten, Musikerinnen aus der Welt der Blasmusik auch hier anzutreffen, um einfach andere Ansichten aus anderen Kulturkreisen zu bekommen, wie Blasmusik dort funktioniert. Oder sagt ihr, ich brauche das eigentlich nicht und dein Englisch war jetzt auch nicht so super, dass ich dem folgen wollte, dann lasst es mich auch gerne wissen. Wie gesagt, die Folge hat jetzt auch etwas Mut von mir abverlangt, das auch zu veröffentlichen, denn ich habe mich währenddessen, unwohl ist vielleicht zu viel, aber sehr, sehr unsicher gefühlt, auch sehr unsicher, ob man das so veröffentlichen kann. Ich habe es jetzt gemacht, also vielleicht seid ihr nicht ganz so hart mit mir, aber ehrlich. Ich möchte mich noch bei Leander Machan für den Schnitt bedanken, bei Dirk für die Musik, und ich hoffe, ihr seid dann beim nächsten Mal trotzdem wieder dabei. Da geht es dann auf Deutsch wieder weiter. Habt eine gute Zeit, macht's gut, euer Andi.